Hi, this is Jeannie. Welcome to Mimi Craft, your home for all things creative and DIY. I make all the mistakes so you don't have to. Hey guys, you know what to do. Press all the buttons and do all the stuff. This algorithm is killing me. Today we'll be making some spooky Halloween decor with tumbling tower blocks. Here we go. Our first project is going to be a pumpkin. You'll need 2 boxes of tumbling tower blocks. More if you want to make a bigger pumpkin, less if you want to make a smaller pumpkin. It's pretty much how this thing works. Start by making a template. I freehanded mine and then measured it after the fact, so these measurements are going to be approximate. I drew a half circle inside a box that was about 7 inches high, 5 inches wide, and it came down just a little bit at the top there to make it look a little more like a pumpkin. For this size, you're going to take 6 blocks and space them evenly on the outside of this half circle that you drew. The very last block needs to be absolutely on the bottom of the paper, a parallel line, because that's what the pumpkin's going to sit on. After you have everything placed the way you like it, then trace where all your blocks should go, and you can keep using this for all the sides that you make for this project. You'll be making 8 sides for this project, so I made 7 copies so that I can make my sides all at the same time, just expedite things. The top corner of this first block should be right on the edge of the paper. The bottom block should line up with both the left edge and the bottom edge of the paper. You'll be gluing a second row of blocks between the first row. The outside edges should be even. Those little corners should be even with the outside edges of the blocks. Place them very carefully. You want them to be accurate. It's going to look like that. Make sure they're centered. It's important that this block does not stick out past the edge of the block below it, because that will interfere with the pumpkin laying flat. Place a book on top of this structure and allow it to dry thoroughly before the next layer. Follow the video for placement of the third layer. It's important that the third layer be parallel with the very first layer. I'm placing blocks as spacers. And it's important that those last 2 blocks be absolutely even, because that's what we're gluing on. Placing a block on either side will help you to line it up and make sure that it's parallel with the first layer. Here I'm holding each of the blocks down to make sure that they're sticking well before I put the book on top of it. You'll be making 4 of these. This is how they'll look. The first layer of the second set of 4 begins exactly the same as the first layer you did. When this is completely dried, flip it over and place blocks as you see on screen. And this is what these will look like. They will be the opposite order of the other 4. Take 2 sides from the first set and place them so that they're facing face to face, end to end. There'll be 2 blocks on each end, upper and lower. Connect them with a single block on the bottom, like that, and then a single block on the top. You'll glue those down. Make sure the block at the top is level. Take the other 2 sides from the first set and put those face to face. You're going to put 1 block between the uppers on each side. You're not going to glue these together, but you are going to glue those blocks up top as you see on screen. Glue this third side as you see on screen. Make sure it's centered top and bottom. Reinforce the underside of the top blocks with some hot glue. This will help hold it still while the other glue dries. We're using wood glue, by the way, for all the rest of this. Now the fourth side. A picture is worth 1,000 words. I had to hold the glue gun upside down to reinforce the top of this side. It's not that bad. Hang in there. You can do it. You can use a can of beans to hold it in place. Now, I have little vices. I bought these at Walmart. They were only a couple of bucks a piece. They're pretty nifty. I'm hopeful that placing the last 4 sides will not cause you to unsubscribe. Here we go. The second set of 4 sides goes on like this. You're going to be directly in between. There's very little for any glue to hold on to, so you're going to have to use hot glue for this. Place it the way you see and just load up glue into that little triangle and hold it up to the wood for as long as you can, or I should say until the glue sets top and bottom. This is just enough to hold it still. Turn it upside down so that you can fill those triangles from the bottom. Try not to let the glue overflow where it's going to show. And again, hold everything very still until that glue sets. This is what it looks like when you fill in the top. You'll need wood filler to strengthen the bonds of those joints you just filled with hot glue. Elmer's wood filler in the color Natural is my favorite. Place the wood filler over the hot glue to completely fill in all those triangular areas. It'll look something like this. Don't forget to sand it after it's dry. Use a toothpick to apply wood filler to the corners. This will help to make them strong. If you spray water on the toothpick, it'll smooth out the wood filler very nicely. Here I am adding wood filler up at the top. It really makes the project look so much nicer. You're going to see as I go through this tutorial that I did not sand these. This is just my demo, but for the finalized project I did sand them. It makes a very big difference if you do. I suggest you let the wood filler dry completely before placing the other 3 sides. It'll dry pretty firmly for you. You don't want things to fall apart while you're working on your project. This is just me adding more sides. I used a craft knife to remove the excess wood filler after it was dry. You'll notice I left one of the sides off. That's because the decor I wanted to put inside the pumpkin was too big to fit in between the sides. So depending on what you want to display, keep that in mind. Glue 3 more blocks in, as you see on screen, to complete the stem on top. Don't forget to remove that excess glue with a wet paper towel. And here's some ideas for displaying it. I decided to see how it would look in black. I used chalk paint. I went back and got the spots I missed, I promise. Here she is. Now for the decor piece I left one side off for. Start with the plastic skull. This I got from Dollar Tree, and sand it thoroughly. Paint the skull with white chalk paint in preparation for decoupage. I decided to use these napkins I purchased at Dollar Tree. First thing you want to do is separate the layers. We'll be using obviously the printed layer to put over the skull. Tear out individual images to place on the skull. A much easier way to do this is to take a paintbrush with some water and to just draw a line with the water. You don't want it to be sopping wet, just enough to break down the paper, and then that makes it really easy to tear. You want those edges to be torn. That's what makes it look nice. You'll need Mod Podge to use as both a glue and a sealer. I started by spreading out the Mod Podge directly on the plastic and placing my first piece of napkin. I just kind of rubbed it down. I wasn't worried at all about wrinkles. This is putting something flat on something round, so expect some wrinkles. Continue the process all over the skull. In a minute here, you're going to see that I took some of the background of the napkin to put on the skull because there weren't very many images on this napkin, and I didn't want the whole thing to look exactly the same. I used Mod Podge on top of the edges to seal them. You will eventually need to put Mod Podge over the whole thing when you're done applying all of your pieces. This is the background piece I was talking about earlier. It's way too big of a piece, but I was getting impatient. Do as I say, not as I do. This piece was so big that I had to actually fold it over in a bunch of areas to get it to lay flat. Still looks real good though. The napkin started bubbling up, so that's what you see me doing here is I'm pushing down those bubbles. Another trick, and you'll see me do this in just a second, is to just spritz it with a little bit of water and then push those bubbles back down. You can even use a pin to pop the bubbles if you need to. After this was dry, I was unhappy that I couldn't really see the teeth. So I made a paint wash. I sprayed some water into a little container and I put just 1 drop of black paint in there. Then mixed it up real good. I brushed it on all the areas that I wanted to stand out more, so there would be more detail, and then just blotted it with the paper towel. It worked out really well. Before I did my final Mod Podge sealant, I built a little stand for the skull because it was laying funny. I just glued 2 blocks together, painted them black, and then glued them to the bottom of the skull. Then I Mod Podged my tail off. I used matte Mod Podge for this project. Here it is in the black pumpkin. Spooky. By the way, I put the last side on after the skull was inside the pumpkin. Now let's do a picture frame. You'll need 1 box of tumbling tower blocks. I started with a 12 by 12 piece of scrapbook paper and I traced it on some poster board. If I were to do this again, I would do foam board. Cut that out with scissors or a craft knife. Because my paper was dark, I decided to darken up the edge of the poster board with the marker. I used a glue stick to place the scrapbook paper down because it's a nice dry glue, you won't get any bubbling. Darkened the edge of the scrapbook paper as well so it would be less noticeable. On the back side of the project, place 5 blocks as you see on screen at the edge of the paper. Row 2 gets glued on halfway between the 2 blocks on the bottom row. This is the same pattern as the pumpkin, only straight instead of on a curve. I'm going to let the video do the rest of the teaching for this particular project. let's make a little coffin. We'll need 28 tumbling tower blocks and 19 popsicle sticks. First, glue the popsicle sticks side by side. This may seem like something that isn't necessary, but it will make cutting them later much easier. Glue 4 sets of 3 tumbling tower blocks side by side. Glue 2 sets of 8 tumbling tower blocks together side by side. Dry fit your pieces in the shape of a coffin on top of the popsicle sticks and then glue them down. Place a book on top of the project and let it dry thoroughly, and then trim off the excess popsicle sticks with a craft knife. I'm totally pretending here because the glue was still wet. I decided to add a little piece of scrapbook paper to the inside of mine. You could leave it plain, do whatever you like. I got the scrapbook paper on Amazon. Use a glue stick to apply the scrapbook paper. Now a little coffin needs an occupant, so I took one of these guys from Dollar Tree and painted him up. I want them to have bent legs, so I gently bent them without breaking them, and they stayed pretty well. I painted this guy with chalk paint and then did a little bit of a paint wash after that to bring out the details. Doesn't he look comfy? Just chillin'. Here's part of one of his friends. Here's a little ensemble. And the grand finale. Guys, thank you so much for watching, for supporting my channel. Please let me know in the comments below which of these projects were your favorites, and what kind of projects would you like to see in the future. Until next week, bye!